The Galactic Council thought humanity was weak, primitive, a species barely worth notice. They labeled us inferior, a footnote in their grand empire. But they forgot something vital: humans don't accept chains. When they tried to humble Earth, the stars themselves bore witness to our answer. Because the Council's mistake was believing we'd stay down. The judgment. The assembly convenes. The Galactic Assembly Hall floated in the void between star systems, a structure so vast it generated its own gravity. Inside, representatives from 43 civilizations gathered for what they considered routine business. The chamber itself was a marvel of engineering, with platforms arranged in concentric circles, each one accommodating the unique environmental needs of different species. Commander Elena Vasquez stood on the central platform, representing Earth and its colonies. Around her, beings of incredible diversity observed with varying degrees of interest. The Keltheran resembled crystalline trees, their bodies refracting light into dancing patterns. The Morgath were massive creatures of dense muscle and armored hide, warriors from a heavy-gravity world. The Centauri appeared almost ghost-like, their translucent forms shifting between visible and invisible spectra. Elena had prepared for this moment for months. Humanity had achieved faster-than-light travel only 30 years ago, making them the youngest spacefaring civilization in known space. Today, the Assembly would determine humanity's status in the galactic community. The evaluation begins. High Chancellor Vorn, a Keltheran elder whose crystalline body showed patterns of age like rings in ancient wood, addressed the Assembly. His voice carried through universal translators that made communication possible across thousands of languages. We gather to assess the humans and determine their place among the established civilizations. The evaluation committee has reviewed their technological development, social structures, and cultural achievements. A holographic display materialized, showing Earth's history. Images flickered past, ancient civilizations rising and falling, wars devastating continents, technological breakthroughs, and finally, the first human ships leaving their solar system. Counselor Thex, a Morgath general whose scars told stories of countless battles, spoke with a voice like grinding stone. The humans have barely left their home system. Their technology is crude by our standards. They still use chemical propulsion for planetary launches. Their energy production relies heavily on burning fossil materials. A murmur of agreement rippled through the assembly. Elena remained silent, her expression neutral, though her hands clenched behind her back. The verdict and voice Shalis of the Centauri added her assessment, her ethereal voice seeming to come from everywhere at once. Their social development concerns us more. Humans have spent most of their recorded history in conflict with their own kind. Even now they maintain standing armies and weapons of mass destruction. They are clearly not ready for equal status among peaceful civilizations. Chancellor Vorn allowed the discussion to continue for another hour. Representatives from various civilizations pointed out humanity's shortcomings. Their ships were slow. Their weapons were primitive. Their scientific understanding was incomplete. Their political systems were fragmented. Their cultures were too diverse, lacking the unity that most advanced civilizations had achieved. Finally, Vorn raised one crystalline appendage, and silence fell. The Assembly has heard all arguments. We must now decide. The options are clear. Grant humans full membership with equal rights or assign them protectorate status with restricted privileges until they mature sufficiently. The vote was not close. 38 civilizations voted for protectorate status. Only 5 abstained, believing humans should be given more time to prove themselves before any judgment was made. The restrictions Chancellor Vorn turned to Elena, his patterns shifting to convey what the translator rendered as sympathetic concern. Commander Vasquez, the Assembly has determined that humanity requires guidance and protection. Your species will be granted protectorate status under the following conditions. Elena listened as the terms were outlined. Humans could establish no more than 5 colonies beyond their solar system. All human ships required approval before entering established trade routes. Humans would have access to galactic markets, but with tariffs 3 times higher than full members paid. Most significantly, humans would have no vote in assembly decisions that affected them. These restrictions will remain in place, Vorn concluded, until humanity demonstrates sufficient maturity and development. We estimate this transition period will last between 2 and 5 centuries depending on your progress. The response Elena stepped forward, her voice steady. Chancellor Vorn, members of the Assembly, I thank you for your consideration. However, I must respectfully inform you that Earth's government cannot accept protectorate status. The chamber erupted in surprised chatter. Several councillors leaned forward, clearly not expecting this response. Thex's voice boomed over the noise. You refuse? Commander, you misunderstand your position. This is not a negotiation. The Assembly has made its decision. Elena met his gaze without flinching. General Thex, I understand perfectly. And I repeat, humanity respectfully declines. We will not accept restrictions on our sovereignty or our expansion. We will not pay discriminatory tariffs. We will not submit to oversight by civilizations that view us as children. Chalice's form flickered with what the translator interpreted as confusion. But you are outnumbered, outgunned, and outdeveloped by every civilization here. What makes you think you can refuse the Assembly's judgment? The warning Elena smiled, but there was steel in her expression. Because you have made the same mistake that many have made throughout human history. You have judged us by what we are now, not by what we can become. You have measured us against your standards, not our potential. She activated her datapad, and new images appeared in the holographic display. You say our technology is primitive. You are correct. 30 years ago, we had no faster-than-light travel. Today, we have 17 different FTL drive designs, each one faster and more efficient than the last. You say our weapons are crude. Perhaps. But we have weapons that can crack planets, created not from ancient knowledge but from innovation born of necessity. The images shifted, showing human industrial capacity, research facilities, and shipyards under construction. You say we are too diverse, too conflict-prone, but that diversity has made us adaptable. That history of conflict has taught us to innovate, to survive, to overcome challenges that would destroy more complacent species. Elena's voice grew stronger. You have given us 2 to 5 centuries to prove ourselves worthy. We will not need that long. We will show you what humanity can achieve when we choose to. And when we do, you will regret treating us as subordinates rather than equals. Chancellor Vorn's patterns shifted to something the translator struggled to interpret. Commander Vasquez, are you threatening this assembly? No, Chancellor, Elena replied calmly. I am making a promise. Humanity will earn your respect, whether you grant it freely or we take it. The reckoning, the crisis emerges. 6 months after the Assembly's judgment, an emergency signal pierced through every communication channel in known space. The message was simple and terrifying. The Void Swarm had returned. The Galactic Assembly convened an emergency session, but this time fear replaced the earlier confidence. The Void Swarm was not a civilization but a force of nature, a collection of massive space-dwelling organisms that consumed matter and energy indiscriminately. They had last appeared 3,000 years ago, devastating dozens of star systems before mysteriously disappearing into deep space. Now they were back, and their trajectory would take them through the most densely populated region of the galaxy. Chancellor Vorn's crystalline form showed cracks of stress as he addressed the emergency council. Our projections indicate the swarm will reach the Keltheran home system in 40 days. Following that trajectory, they will consume the Morgoth colonies, the Centauri Nebula worlds, and approximately 70 other inhabited systems. General Thex slammed one massive fist against his platform. Then we mobilized the defense fleets immediately. We have faced the swarm before. We can face them again. But Envoy Chalice's ghostly form flickered with doubt. General, you have read the historical accounts. Last time we lost 30% of our combined military forces just slowing them down. And that was when the swarm numbered in the thousands. Current scans show millions of organisms. The desperate plan the Assembly worked frantically, coordinating the largest military mobilization in galactic history. Every civilization contributed ships, weapons, and resources. Battle plans were drafted and discarded. Simulations ran constantly, each one showing the same result. Even with every available warship, they could only delay the swarm, not stop it. Then, on the 5th day of deliberations, an unexpected transmission arrived. It was Commander Elena Vasquez. Chancellor Vorn, Earth's government has been monitoring the situation. We believe we can help. Thex's derisive snort echoed through the chamber. Help? Human, your ships cannot even match our slowest vessels. Your weapons would be like throwing pebbles at a mountain. We appreciate the gesture, but this is beyond your capabilities. Elena's image remained calm on the display. General, you are correct that our ships are slower. But speed is not the only factor in warfare. We have analyzed the swarm's biology from your historical records. We have a plan, but we need the Assembly's cooperation. Chancellor Vorn's pattern shifted with desperate hope. Commander, we are listening. The human solution Alina outlined a strategy that seemed absurd at first hearing. The swarm organisms navigated by detecting gravitational fields and electromagnetic radiation. They were drawn to sources of concentrated energy, which is why they targeted inhabited star systems. We cannot fight the swarm directly, Elena explained, but we can redirect them. Earth scientists have developed a network of gravitational lenses, devices that can bend space itself. If we deploy them correctly, we can create an artificial gravity well that the swarm will find irresistible. Chalice's form flickered with skepticism. You are suggesting we lure them away from populated space? To where? To the Kelvara Expanse, Elena replied. The chamber fell silent. The Kelvara Expanse was a massive region of empty space, devoid of stars or planets. It was also located near a cluster of black holes. If we can direct the swarm into the expanse and toward the black holes, their own feeding instinct will trap them. Counselor after counselor raised objections. The technology was unproven. The timing would need to be perfect. The gravitational lenses would need to be deployed across dozens of star systems simultaneously. One miscalculation would send the swarm directly into inhabited space. Elena listened to each objection, then responded with detailed technical specifications. She showed calculations, simulations, and prototype demonstrations. Slowly, the Assembly's skepticism began to fade. Finally, Chancellor Vorn made a decision. Commander Vasquez, the Assembly will support your plan. What do you need from us? Humanity delivers. What followed was the most intense period of cooperation the galaxy had ever seen. Human engineers worked alongside Keltheran scientists. Morgath construction crews built deployment platforms under human supervision. Synthari navigators plotted trajectories with human mathematicians. The humans amazed everyone with their efficiency. They worked in shifts that seemed impossibly long, maintained focus despite exhaustion, and solved problems through creative thinking that more rigid civilizations found remarkable. When a critical component failed during testing, human engineers redesigned it in 6 hours, a task that should have taken weeks. General Thex found himself working directly with a human colonel named Marcus Chen. At first, Thex had dismissed the human as weak. His body adapted to a gentle gravity well and protected atmosphere. But watching Chen coordinate multiple construction teams while simultaneously solving engineering problems earned grudging respect. How do you do it? Thex asked during a brief rest period. Your civilization is young. Your technology should be centuries behind ours. Yet you innovate as if your minds work faster than ours. Chen smiled tiredly. General, necessity breeds innovation. Earth has never been a gentle world. We have faced extinction countless times, ice ages, volcanic winters, asteroid impacts, and our own weapons. We survived by adapting, by thinking beyond the obvious solutions, by never accepting that something cannot be done. The deployment. With 12 days remaining before the swarm reached the first inhabited system, the gravitational lens network went active. Thousands of devices deployed across space, creating an artificial gravity gradient that pulled at reality itself. The swarm responded exactly as predicted, altering course toward the stronger gravitational signal, but maintaining the lenses required constant adjustments. Space was dynamic and the calculations needed updating every few minutes. Human operators managed this in real time, their minds processing information and making corrections faster than the Assembly's automated systems could manage. When asked how they maintained such focus, one operator simply replied, "We are fighting for survival. There is no acceptable alternative to success." As the swarm entered the Kelvara Expanse, the galaxy watched with held breath. The organisms moved deeper into the trap, drawn by the carefully crafted gravitational patterns. Then, as they reached the point of no return, the black hole's immense gravity took over. The void swarm, which had threatened to devastate the galaxy, disappeared into the black hole's event horizons, never to return. The new understanding. When the crisis ended, the Galactic Assembly convened once more. This time the atmosphere was different. Chancellor Vorn addressed Commander Elena Vasquez with patterns that conveyed deep respect. Commander, humanity has saved countless billions of lives. Your innovation, your dedication, and your refusal to accept limitation have shown us the error of our judgment. Elena stood in the center of the chamber, no longer alone but flanked by the human team that had made victory possible. Chancellor, we did not do this for recognition. We did it because it was necessary and because we could. But we hope you understand now that advancement cannot be measured solely by time or current technology. Thex rose from his platform. The assembly was wrong, Commander Vasquez. We judged you as children because you were young. We failed to see that sometimes youth brings advantages age forgets: flexibility, creativity, and the courage to attempt the impossible. The vote that followed was unanimous. Humanity was granted full membership in the Galactic Assembly, with all rights and privileges. The protectorate status was eliminated. The discriminatory restrictions were removed. But more than that, the relationships formed during the crisis continued. Human engineers worked on joint projects with alien scientists. Human ships traveled freely through galactic space. Human delegates contributed to assembly decisions with voices that were now heard and respected. As Elena prepared to return to Earth with news of humanity's new status, Chancellor Vorn approached her privately. Commander, I must ask, when you refused our judgment 6 months ago, did you know this crisis would occur? Elena shook her head. No, Chancellor. But I knew that eventually, circumstances would arise where our particular strengths would matter. Humanity has learned that respect cannot be demanded or granted. It must be earned. We were simply prepared to earn it, however long that took. Vorn's patterns shifted to something the translator identified as admiration. Your species will shape the future of this galaxy, Commander Vasquez. Of that I am now certain, Elena smiled. Then let us shape it together as equals should.